All right, so when we left off last time, we had just looked at what a normal distribution was. And so we looked at the 68, 95, 99.7 rule, but we said, well, what if we have some observation that's not 1, 2, or 3 standard deviations away from the mean? And so what we're going to use is something called the standard normal distribution to help us find those areas for values that aren't 0, 1, 2, or 3 standard deviations from the mean. So the standard normal distribution is a distribution with a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. Okay, so I apologize for my curve here, but the mean here is 0 and the standard deviation is 1, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3 in either direction. Those are negatives. Okay, so we like this because there are tables that give us the area under the curve between the mean and a number called a z-score, which is just the number of standard deviations a data value is from the mean. So for example, last time we looked at a distribution that had mean 20.8 and standard deviation 4.8. 25.6 was one standard deviation above the mean, so 25.6 corresponded to a z-score of 1. So here's an example, an example of a table of z-scores. Okay, so here's a table. In fact, here's a graph, and you can see if I move my cursor, it'll tell me that from a z-score from 0 to the z-score of 1.42, there's 42.22% of the data. All right, and if I could get this to scroll, I would show you the table, but it's not scrolling, so to the notes, and I'll show you in the notes. Okay, so let's turn the page. Okay, so let's use a table to find the percentage of the data that lie in the following regions for a standard normal distribution. So the first region is between 0 and 1.25. Then we'll do the following ones. Okay, so let's start with A. Remember, when you're doing these problems, you always want to start by drawing a picture. So let's draw our picture. We're going to draw the normal distribution. We're going to label our mean as 0. And the z-score we want is 1.25. That's to the right. And we want the area between 0 and 1.25. So let's go ahead and shade that. Okay, so this is the area that we want. And we're going to look at a table to find it. Okay. So here's the table. So we're going to find z equals 1.25 in the table. And so to do that, the table, we're going to look down the first column and the first row to find our z-score. So the first two digits in your number are in the first column. So we want 1.25. So we go down to 1.2. And then we're going to look across the top for the 0.05. That's my last digit in my z-score. And we're going to find where they meet. Okay, so let me use the highlighter to show that. So we're going to go down and across, and they meet here at 3.944. Oops. Okay, and so that's the area between the z-score of 0 and the z-score of 1.25. All right, and so if I want the percentage of z-scores between those values, I just convert this to a percentage, and I get 39.44%. Okay, so here I've circled another value. This is the area between 0 and a z-score of 0.36. Okay. Oops, sorry. So the area between 0 and 0.36. Okay, so the next one that we wanted was the area between z equals 1.52 and 2.15. Okay. Now, the table only gives us areas between a z-score and 0. So I want to think about how I could convert, that's a z, how I could convert the area that I want into areas that I know how to find from the table. And so if I want this area between two z-scores here, then I could find the area from 2.15 to 0. That's what I've shaded here. And what I want to subtract off is this white chunk here, which now I'm going to shade red, right? This is what I want to subtract off, and that's what I've shaded on the right. Now, both of those are values that I can find in my table. So let's go back to the table. Keep in mind, I'm looking for 2.15 and 1.52. So let's go, whoops, back. Okay, so 2.15 and 1.52 are what we're looking for. So 2.15, here's the 2.1, and across the top, I haven't copied it now, so now you're going to have to think 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here's the 2.15, and so 4.4842 is the value that we wanted. Now the other one was 1.52, so again, go to 1.5 and scroll across to the 0.02, and you can see it's 0.04357. Oh, 0.4357. I apologize. Okay, so I write those two areas down. So again, this 0.4842 corresponds to this area, and the 0.4357 corresponds to this area, and I'm going to subtract them to get this area. All right. So again, this table, of course, you can find it on the internet, but it's also available on Moodle. So make sure you print off the table and use it as you're going through the notes in your homework. All right, so about 4.85% of the data has a z-score between 1.52 and 2.15. All right, the next one that we want to do is finding the area between z equals negative 1.83 and z equals 0. Well, by symmetry, that's always going to be the same as the area between 0 and positive 1.83. Whoops. And positive 1.83 we can find in our table. Go ahead and look in your own table. Remember, you're going to scroll down the first column and find 1.83 and go across the top to find first column and find 1.8. Go across the top to find 0.03 and find where they meet. And where they meet is going to be this value, 4.664. 0.4664. All right.